So you have about $1,000 to spend on a new flagship Android. You don't want to go above that threshold, but at the same time you don't want anything other than a top tier experience. What do you go for? And which company offers the best big phone for that kind of money? Is it Samsung or Google? There are benefits to both Galaxy S24 Plus and Pixel 8 Pro, but which should you spend your hard-earned money on? I'm Cam Bunton from Pocket-lint, and in this video I'll tell you. Now, it's funny how often in my time testing or even buying smartphones, how the very first impression can leave me not wanting to use it, or wanting to use it. And for a long time, that initial impression of how a phone feels when I hold it would often sway me towards that device instead of another, even if it wasn't perfect. Now, if I was to use that as the measuring stick for these two phones, there would be zero contest. The Pixel 8 Pro is really nice to hold. The Galaxy S24 Plus really isn't. No experience is that cut and dry, obviously, but there are a few things that work in the Pixel's favour here. Now, sure, it's chunkier and heavier, but its shaping and finish make it a joy to hold. The smooth frosted matte glass that curves towards the edges makes it a delight to the senses. And the rounded metal mid-frame ensures there are no sharp angles or edges. It's soft and palm friendly. Samsung is pretty much the exact opposite. It has very flat edges and a right angle join between the front and the sides that make it a pretty uncomfortable shape in one hand. Now, call me old, but I really miss the days when ergonomics mattered in Samsung's smartphone design. Still, it's not all about how the phone feels. After all, you're probably going to buy a case for it, right? And that tends to soften the edges and the texture quite a lot. There are other design considerations from both visual and practical angles too. Now, aesthetically, the completely uniform super skinny bezel around the Samsung display is stunning, giving the screen pride of place on the front of the phone. Pixel's display bezels are relatively uniform, although a little thicker, but they're thin enough that it's not something that massively stands out, unless you put it next to the Samsung. Now, to me, and this is just personal preference, but I much prefer the overall look and the feel of the Pixel. The iconic camera bar across the back, the strong lines, the curves, and the combination of that matte frosted glass and the polished edges are just stunning. Samsung's phone just looks like a Samsung phone. It's pretty minimal, a little dull aesthetically, but there's no denying the overall precision. And being smaller and lighter is a benefit even if there's no visual character. Both are similarly protected against water and dust getting in and wrecking the internals. IP68 meaning they can be submerged in shallow water for 30 minutes and still work just fine. They both even have the same glass on the front and the back for decent scratch and impact protection. Now, you could look down the spec sheets for both of these phones and come to the conclusion that as far as display quality goes, there's nothing to separate them, and in some ways you wouldn't be entirely wrong. After all, they're both high-resolution displays with both close to 500 pixels per inch. Both are 6.7 inches across too, although Pixel has a narrower aspect ratio and so isn't quite as expansive overall. Both also have 120Hz refresh rates with adaptive capabilities to ramp up and down when needed, and they can both hit over 2000 nits peak brightness for those bright spots in HDR videos. So how do you compare? And is this a case of one of those areas where you don't really need to base a decision on? To me, in some ways, yes. In that I mean they're both very good displays. They're both sharp, bright and vibrant and can hit fast frame rates in an instant. Both great for watching movies or getting lost in your favourite games. There are some very small differences, however. Despite not having quite as high a peak brightness as the Samsung, there's a sense that when looking at photos or videos and the display cranked up to full, the Pixel display seems slightly brighter. It's also got a warmer tone to it, not in an overly yellow way, but in a more realistic golden natural white balance kind of a way. But with that said, you can adjust the Samsung to be that way too if you want it. Now, the one thing I did notice that's a very minor thing is that when looking at bright icons on dark backgrounds, the Pixel tends to have more of that haloing or blooming around the edges, so it feels a little bit less defined. Samsung controls those better, offering a cleaner and crisper separation between the icon and the background. Another thing that can impact your user experience is the built-in fingerprint sensor. Samsung uses an ultrasonic one, which I found to be a bit more responsive and reliable than pretty much every other in-display reader. Pixel's optical one is decent enough, but just not quite as speedy or instant. As for software, the approach to the UI is very different. Samsung's drop-down quick settings are smaller, neatly arranged and super practical, while Pixel is big and colourful and playful, but less practical. Samsung, despite having all of Google's apps and services pre-installed like all other Android makers, also adds its own duplicate alternatives. And it still gets me that Samsung thinks having an app drawer being swiped horizontally makes sense after launching it by swiping upwards. Still, that's something you can change yourself with a third-party launcher if you want to. Now, there are less subjective elements of the software to consider too, things like software support, updates and the like, and in this case again they're pretty evenly matched. I've been getting regular prompt security patches and updates for both of these phones the whole time I've had them. Samsung's phone has been out for about 2 months, and in that time I've had about 3 updates, at least at the time I made this video. Pixel has the advantage of pixel drops, which are often fun and add useful features every couple of months or so, enhancing the actual experience of using the phone. Sometimes that's just upgrading the wallpaper selection, other times it's adding AI features like Circle to Search, which first launched on the Samsung. As for support time, both are up there, offering about 7 years of major updates, which is pretty epic, if Google and Samsung actually follow through on that promise. We're yet to see if that's the case, so ask me again in 7 years and I'll be able to tell you whether they were lying or not. Now, anyway, let's move on to performance and battery life, and here you might find enough of a difference to go for Samsung over Pixel. In both counts, and even in my region where we have the Exynos version of the Samsung, the speed, performance and battery life are just overall stronger on the Galaxy. It's not a massive gap really, in truth the Pixel 8 Pro generally performs really well, but when it comes to that feeling of having a phone that can cope with the most demanding games and play them without draining tons of battery, the Galaxy has been stronger in that regard. Part of that is down to the fact that the chipset used is more powerful than the Pixel 8 Pros. It's just got a little bit more oomph. And the optimizations done by Samsung mean it doesn't completely kill your battery life when you're putting in lots of game time. It is worth pointing out here that the Pixel never felt slow. It's quick and can do pretty much anything without a huge amount of effort. It's just not quite as powerful as the Samsung. Samsung can deliver fast, high frame rates for longer, consistent periods than the Pixel for the likes of Genshin, Call of Duty, or my favorite, Rush Rally. Thinking of active use time, I found the full battery on the Samsung will get an hour or 2 more actual usage from a full battery, and is almost a 2-day battery in my own relatively light usage. Pixel 8 Pro has done well for me too, comfortably making it to the end of a day no problem, but typically needing charging around 2 or 3 PM on the second day. And that's with about 3 hours of usage, scrolling social media, watching videos and gaming. It's also worth noting here that the Samsung has faster charging too, so when it's empty you'll get a quicker refill. So cameras, and both phones have a triple camera system with a main ultrawide and telephoto zoom lens, so that should mean they're pretty similar, right? Well, not exactly. For one, the Pixel's zoom camera is a periscope style 5x zoom, compared to the 3x on the S24 Plus. It's also got a lot more pixels in it, and Samsung's 10 megapixel count is actually pretty low in this day and age. Still, what that means in reality is that Pixel's zoom camera can get you quite a lot closer to the action, or that point in the faraway scene, than the Samsung can without losing any detail. You can zoom further if you want on both cameras, but past those 3x and 5x limits, it means you're essentially just cropping into the sensor digitally, and as much as algorithms try and patch up the loss in detail artificially, they just don't look all that good. Particularly on the Samsung, which has fewer pixels to play with, details fall away pretty rapidly, where pixels can get a bit further before getting ropey looking. It's in that zoom where you see the biggest difference in quality between the two phones though, and it's not plain sailing with the Pixel. I often found that when switching to the zoom camera it would just crash the camera app and I'd have to restart it, and this happened nearly every time that I did it, and has done for the past couple of months even after various security and bug patches. Otherwise, what I noticed most comparing the photos from the Samsung and the Pixel was the approaches to colour and exposure. For the most part, Pixel tends to have a warmer golden tone which looks great and a bit more natural. I also found the contrast or the balance between highlights and shadows to be a bit more even, so photos in general don't look quite as harsh as the Samsung's photos. Samsung likes to overexpose, and in highlighted parts of the image this can wash out colours and textures, where otherwise the blues and the greens can be really oversaturated in images that are cooler in general. At night time, what becomes clear using the night mode was how differently the two companies white balance an image. Pixel, for the most part, tends to clean up the white balance, where Samsung's pictures have a quite pronounced green tint to them, which becomes more obvious when there's grass or plants in the shot. On the whole though, the Pixel's night images were more consistently sharp across the 3 lenses, despite taking longer to capture the photos, perhaps proving that its night sight algorithms are a step ahead of Samsung's. Samsung pictures, as in the daytime, often look very colourful. As for video quality, the differences in colour are similar to when looking at the photos, and both can shoot at 4K 60 frames per second pretty easily. The difference really is in stabilisation of that primary camera. I found the Samsung to be a little bit smoother when shooting while walking and moving than what Pixel can manage. I do prefer the Pixel's golden warm colour and slightly less harsh contrast, but both are perfectly good. So verdict time, which is the best? This is actually trickier than I thought it would be. I think it boils down to a couple of things though, and deciding which you value the most. Samsung, I think, has the better display, controlling bright spots on dark backgrounds better, Also with better overall performance and battery life and faster charging. However, the Pixel 8 Pro has a stronger camera system, particularly because of that zoom camera, and the design is nicer to hold and use day in and day out, plus the software is cleaner, regularly updated with new features, and will get the major updates as soon as they're available. Now on balance, for most people, as long as camera isn't the most important thing for you, I think the Samsung might be the better buy, but because it also happens to be lighter and slimmer, which is great. However, if camera matters the most to you, get the Pixel. I've been Cam. Let me know what you think of these two phones in the comments down below, or you can get me on Threads. I'm at Cam Bunton. If you did like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe and tap that notification bell, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.